हाँ
The
हाँ कर दो कर दो
broadcast
कर
is
दो।
now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Ansh, can you hear me?
उसको सिर्फ रहने सकते because people have already joined audience.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. We'll just start in 10-15 minutes. Just waiting for a couple of more audience to join in. Hi everyone. We'll start sharply in 5 minutes. Just a couple of minutes more. Thank you everyone for joining in. Okay, I guess we can start. Thank you for joining in, everyone. Good morning to those who have joined in from Africa, and good afternoon to those who have joined in from India region. So, my name is Ansh, and I will be moderating this webinar. Ameyo is one of the leading customer experience solution providers in India, and we cater to the emerging markets as well. Today, we will be presenting on the digital shift, moving from legacy experience to omnichannel customer experience. We have with us Pauline, founder of EA Customer Care Center, Seema, head of customer experience, CBA, and Sachin Bhatia, founder Ameyo. So just to lay down some ground rules, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the chat box. We would like to answer these questions during the webinar, and if time permits, we can have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar as well. This webinar will be more of an interactive session, so please feel free to ask any questions that you want. In the last webinar, we discussed something on the phygital omni-channel customer experience and how removing the physical digital divide is necessary in the customer experience sector, specifically focusing on the retail and e-commerce sector. So, and we thought that we should definitely do something on omni-channel customer experience in the emerging markets as well, specifically catering to the BFSI. Okay, moving forward now. So this is a quote that I found interesting. So all omni-channel experiences will always have multi-channels, but not all multiple channel experiences are omni-channel. So I guess this is a ground that we have focused on, and this is the webinar mainly focusing. We'll be talking about only these things. So how siloed channels are should not work, and how we should focus mainly building on agent experience. So we'll see during the webinar how it will flow. Moving forward to the agenda of the webinar. So I will be talking about how the state of customer experience and customer expectations have have been emerged in the emerging markets, and what's the prime difference between the legacy and omni-channel customer experience, and how things have improved in this customer experience space. Then we will be talking about how CBA has delivered an omni-channel customer experience to its customers. Then Sachin will be talking about how they're breaking the legacy of silos and siloed channels, and why omni-channel customer experience is the moving forward. Okay, then we'll take off. If you have any questions, we can take in the Q&A session. So Pauline is one of our speaker, and to give a brief introduction about her, she is a result-driven, self-motivated, and strategic leader with a proven ability to develop and strengthen management teams to maximize organizational profitability. Her last corporate role was Director of Customer Care at Safaricom Limited, and is currently consulting widely on customer experience. She is a proven customer change manager and an authority in service delivery and strategic alignment. Welcome, Pauline, to the webinar. We have with us Seema. Seema is the head of customer experience at CBA, where she's currently undertaking the customer-facing activities and has relaunched the private banking proposition and restructured the branches into sales and service-oriented model, and was primarily responsible for the CBA Smart branch model in 2014. Due to her innovative customer experience channel ways, the CBA has won the Innovation Award and Most Sustainable Customer Initiative Award from the Institute of Customer Service Kenya in the last 3 years. Welcome, Seema, to the webinar. We have with us Sachin. He is a founder and CX evangelist at Ameyo. He has been involved over 800 CX projects across 30 plus countries and works with leaders in the customer experience space and widely important goals. He is a computer scientist and is deeply involved in product roadmap and direction of Ameyo's contact center suite. His interests include omnichannel customer experience, user personas, and customer service machine learning. Welcome, Sachin, to the webinar. So over to you, Sachin. You can probably start the webinar.
Thank you, Vansh, and Asante to all my friends from Africa, and good afternoon to everybody from Asia. We're coming to you live from 2 continents, and we have attendees from 3 continents right now on this webinar. So this is really, really exciting, guys. Thanks for joining in this morning. Over the last 6 months, I've attended events around customer service, contact centers, customer experience, and one of the topics and the most used buzzwords is customer experience and omni-channel customer experience, and everybody wants to do something about it. But when I had chats with folks who are actually implementing it, realized that there are some serious challenges, sometimes even in the definition of what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, and what does it involve for one to move from what is called legacy to modernized omni-channel customer experience. That is what motivated the team to set up this panel. We have Pauline who talks to a lot of folks around customer experience, helps them implement strategies around that. Seema from CPA, in my personal experience, a very forward-looking leader who has transformed, has taken initiatives, and has been actually implementing some of the stuff. And I thought I can also share my experiences with talking to the leaders. So everybody knows that customer experience is on the rise. There are statistics on your screens right now, but essentially the trigger here is essentially the millennials and the younger generation are folks with very less patience, and they would come on face-to-face or phone when it is really, really required. They would want their queries to be answered on their own. The attention spans are reducing. So how does a traditional contact center experience or a customer service experience then transform itself to serve these folks? Ansh, if you can move forward. So Ansh, just move forward. Okay, so I would first invite Pauline to share her thoughts on what actually is omni-channel experience and what are some of the trends she has been observing, talking to the folks in Kenya and otherwise around their focus areas on omni-channel, their concerns around customer experience, some of the trends. Over to you, Pauline, if you can hear us.
Okay. Well, all right. Thank you, and hello, everyone. Yes. Now, omni-channel, I say, is a cross-channel business model that companies use to improve their customer experience. The key thing here is to ensure that there is consistency in experience at every single touch point. This can be done simultaneously when we're talking about the digital, the retail, and obviously the human interaction space. The key word that we look for when we're talking about omni-channel is that these channels have to be integrated, and you're actually according every single customer the kind of service they require. If they come to your shop or your bank or your insurance firm, you are able to actually identify who they are. You are able to look at the history and be able to give them an experience that actually makes them know you actually care about how you interact with them. Most of the companies that have done this are mainly in the retail and telecommunication industries, banking, that is in the financial services. We are seeing a lot of that also trying to be implemented in the government, like the government of Kenya trying what is called the Huduma centers, not fully integrated, but there is actually opportunity to create that whole omni-channel experience. If you look at the area of e-commerce in Kenya, you have like Safaricom with their Masoko, you have Jumia Online, where you're actually trying to see the omni-channel experience being created as everybody looks up to good experiences like we have seen with the Amazons and also the Domino, like the pizza, the delivery, how it is integrated with the payments, that kind of experience. Sure. So like I've said, this will involve the telephone communication, physical locations, the web pages, FAQ, social media, the whole digital space. So that whole integration, so that you give that one single point experience that is consistent wherever the customer goes, then that creates the omni-channel experience.
Sure.
Next. One of the things that we have noticed as we do customer experience is that there's a very thin line in the way people are interpreting multi-channel versus omni-channel. And in the omni-channel, particularly in any experience, we are talking of full integration, but most businesses are going for multi-channel, which means you're buying different systems and giving different experiences on every platform that you are coding services. So if I go to the bank, they'll have the social media, which is not necessarily integrated into the CRM. So as a customer, I have this fragmented kind of service that I'm getting, and every time maybe I have to repeat what I forward from the banking hall is not captured. I go to the social media, I have to repeat again. I do the call center, I have to do it again. I go online to self-service. Then that becomes very critical.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm reminded of, Pauline, and this is a fear a lot of us in the customer service industry share, whether moving to self-service, automation, artificial intelligence, would it make sort of the roles that we have today redundant? And one of my dispositions to that is that although, and everybody would agree that the number of interactions that are happening on some of the traditional channels, voice, for example, that is obviously going down, but the importance of each interaction on those channels is actually exponentially increasing. And that is because people who are now coming into the contact center, 5 years, 10 years back, that was the only medium for them to reach out. But now they would have tried, going through the self-service portal, tried resolving it from other methods. And only when nothing else works is when somebody, is coming into the contact center. And hence the importance of each interaction is really, really going through the roof. Is that something, Pauline, Seema, you guys have observed? Pauline, you first. Have you observed that the actual quality of agents, the time spent, the attention span on the contact center is increasing because the criticality is actually increasing there? Is that something you guys have observed?
Absolutely. In fact, other than the reduction in the number of interactions that you have, is you have these super agents who are able to actually resolve a customer's issue satisfactorily at the first contact resolution. So you have empowerment, and you have total customer satisfaction, because at the first stop, this person is fully aware of what they need to do and what if they have all the information.
Yep. Seema, I remember you mentioned that you have been able to put up a team of superheroes who can respond on any channel, and that is again something very progressive. How did you guys go about doing that?
Yeah, superheroes indeed they are. I think it's the same process as you realize that customers are just becoming more and more demanding in terms of resolution and how quickly they want things resolved. That's it's at that point that we reflected and said we need to improve what is considered the first line of response and upskill the first line of response to be able to handle anything and everything that's thrown their way. So we have a team that basically is able to handle issues all the way from bank assurance to insurance premium financing to technical solutions, the internet banking platforms. So their support stretches across the whole, the whole pane of services that we give to our customers. So we've just had to literally upskill as we go and created the superhero.
Excellent, Seema. And for everybody, I think that's one takeaway that we have, that the earlier method of I have voice agents, process agents, chat agents. I think it's time for us to enable and empower our agents to be able to handle a multitude of issues and able to handle and respond from all channels. If Seema is the customer, I am the agent. She would be pleasantly surprised if her email, social media, and phone call and chat is responded by the same person, because that connects us with context that we have built in the past. Go ahead, Pauline. You can. Sorry, I interrupted, but I thought it was a point worth mentioning. Go ahead, please.
Yes. So, like we're talking about omnichannel, the other thing to note is that for this to be integrated in an organization, I think one of the things we note is where does that whole experience sit? Who should make the decision around this? And the customer obviously sits at the center of it, but it should be driven from the highest level of the organization so that everybody understands why you are doing what you're doing, to avoid having that whole fragmented organization that thinks they are driving everything for the customer, but they are not driving it together. So that is one of the key things that must be noted in any organization.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So next is to look at the threads. I'll talk about from the contact center. Obviously, it is integrated from the fact that you have all the information collated and it is being seen. You have integrated your email, your chat, your SMS, your social media, and mostly continue empowering the customer themselves to solve the issues for themselves. And here we stress the need for self-care as one of the big things that must be driven to achieve that omni-channel, so that the customer is actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, and the back office, which is then the organization as a whole, is giving the customer the platform to actually interact with them with the freedom to do what they want to do and to resolve their issue online. So if I look at things like online banking, I'm thinking I want to see it log in, be able to do my transaction, be able to print my statement. So I'm an empowered customer. That experience now continues to create a better brand experience. And that is what becomes the differentiator from one bank or one insurance company to the other.
Excellent. So, while you go to the trends and Ansh changes the slide, I have an interesting thing to mention here, that everybody is aware that we should handle all channels. But in the later part of the session, I'm sharing some examples of how even adding channels can go really, really wrong. So one has to be extremely careful. These are not experiments. Your customers are not guinea pigs. Some of the mistakes that you should avoid while adding channels, with actual stories from organizations, without obviously naming them, where experimentation has happened, and some stuff has gone really wrong and some stuff has gone really right. So we'll be sharing those instances also. Ansh, can we move to the trends? Go ahead, Pauline.
So trends in Africa, I'll start by stating a few facts, is that we are still very fragmented, and we are now harping on that whole multi-channel aspect. As we progress towards the omni-channel, you'll find that in most organizations, banking, insurance, telecoms, customer experience is talked about, but it's not the top priority. You'll find that most CEOs and the ones I've interacted with will talk about customer experience, but mainly everybody is trying to drive revenue. For me, revenue becomes a result of good customer experience. Because a customer, once they're happy with your brand and the experience they have, then they'll be able to pay without any issue. The other thing that I have noticed in Africa is the integration of reporting or even the user experience. It's quite fragmented. I still keep using that word because everybody is doing what they want to do in the department, but nobody looks at when it moves from finance, how does it move to the next person? It is not a seamless experience. There's also a strong belief in brick and mortar from the customers themselves. So most people are afraid of technology, but now we have seen new trends. If you look at let's say the telcos and financial services, look at maybe a bank like Kenya Commercial Bank, or I'll look at the M-Pesa experience. Most of these are now moving towards an omni-channel with a lot of stress on self-care. How do you actually have your own experience as a customer, interacting with the customer, but at least from an integrated perspective, because you can see everything, almost to self-support. The other thing that is happening in Africa is that you have seen the emergence of the e-commerce space, where everyone now is going online and we are buying stuff from online. I have the example of what is Masoko from Safaricom. There is the Jumia online and many, many more. So this is also helping in the creating a very quick kind of integrated platform for customers to get service. You have seen a lot of development of apps and online help. So you have the Twitter and you have everything, you know, all the social media platforms. And this means that businesses have to invest in systems that are integrated, a good CRM, a good ERP that is integrated. And also you have to pick the sentiment online and have this put together so that the story of a customer's journey is actually seen by whoever needs to help these customers.
Sure.
Another thing that is, yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Pauline, so I have a question for you. So in terms of the trends in Africa, what do you think has been a major adoption rate? Which channel do you think has been a major adoption? Which channel has been a audience perceived as a good medium to interact with brands?
I'll say for me, the channel that is really working, particularly in Africa, I'll look at banking. There's a lot of growth in Twitter, like in Kenya. Mm-hmm. Email is still used, but it's becoming a bit of traditional way, because given the changing demographics in Africa, most people now are youth under 35. And what that means is that they have this immediate consumption, you know, the millennials and their kind of consumption. They want immediate gratification. So the digital space is really the area that is showing growth.
Okay.
The traditional voice is just being, you know, it's still going on, but it is not the new channel that customers want to use. Two, they know if I put this online, a lot of people will see it could go viral, and my issue will be resolved immediately.
Okay.
This is also supported by the data revolution in Africa. If I just look at Kenya, the fact that now we have like 4 mobile telecommunication companies offering data. So most people now can actually be able to get data and go into the digital space.
Okay.
And what that means also is that they can be able to demand for better service, because they can see what the Amazons, the Domino's, all these other international companies are doing and how they do it, how fast they respond. So that is also one of the trends that is happening. The other thing is that there is, you know, the entry of new and affordable platforms which are cloud-based against the traditional or what we knew, like for call routing, we knew Avaya, we knew Genesis, but now we have seen the emergence of more agile platforms that are more affordable. So integrated service is becoming key. So this is creating that whole omnichannel experience, because businesses can afford to invest in these platforms. And obviously that whole automation of key functionalities, e.g., you can be able to order for goods, pay online, and then be able to have it delivered to you. This is not something that was happening a few years ago, but now this is becoming a trend. And for banks, I'll look at a bank, I can be able to deposit my money, without going to the bank, inside the banking hall, I can, from the point of creating the account, I'm able to actually do it myself. I can create a virtual account. If anything fails, I can text a number and then I get, let's say, my PIN if it had failed. So I can be able to actually be self-serve. So these are some of the things that are helping change the experience from the old type of experience into the new way of doing things.
Asante, Pauline, and while I invite Seema to come in and share her experience of how she went about doing stuff and some of the actionables that she went through and implemented at CBA, I'm reminded of the perils of social media, especially for departments that we guys represent. And one of the dichotomy that I've observed is who handles social media. Is it marketing or customer service? Marketing does a good job of branding. However, all the queries are now responded by saying it has been routed to the relevant department very fast. And actually, customer has gotten very, very smart, and they're expecting actually resolutions online, not just to be heard, but resolutions on Twitter. With that, I hand over the stage to Seema. Seema is going to share some of her experiences with CBA. Go ahead, Seema.
Thanks, Sachin. Okay, so I start off with this slide, and it's good that Pauline has started off with all of the trends, because I think it's pretty fundamental for people to understand that banking is no longer somewhere that you go. And a lot of the competition that we're facing within Kenya and Africa is not even from banks and traditional banks. So whilst banking is as essential as Bill Gates said, banks are not. And so therefore, it's time for all of us to wake up to the fact and learn from what other people are doing and apply that to what legacy banks suffer from, which is the inability to understand and respond to customer experience and provide that omni-channel experience that customers are now looking for. So if we move to the next, I will just talk through and summarize. If you move to the next slide, just summarize some of the things that Pauline has mentioned, focusing on specifically things like customers' patience. Customers are definitely changing. Their patience levels are decreasing. Gone are the days where you can go to the bank and drop off a complaint letter and hope for a response 1 week down the line, which is sent back to you as a hard copy as well. That is a long gone day. And now customers expect responses instantly. Customers expect to reach us however they want to reach us, not how we want them to reach us. They expect us to be available all the time, 24/7. And they expect experiences. They don't expect transactions. They also, like Pauline mentioned, self-service is one of the key things, especially with the youth. They want to be able to go in and sort themselves out, and then only reach you for more complicated transactions or advisory kind of transactions. So, to that end, then you can see as an industry for banking specifically, we're now, being seen as a commodity. It's not how banking used to be, and so therefore we really need to be alive to that fact. So if you move to the next slide, please. I've just basically done a pictorial of the history of the interaction channels. As you can see, like I've mentioned, the brick and mortar model where you would actually physically go to the bank started off, around the 1970s and probably before that as well. But from there and where we are now, there has been a change in the way the customer has interacted with us. From the telephone, where remember the red phone booths and you would go and call the bank, to sending emails, to now using the basic rudimentary internet banking to transact with the bank. Then looking at mobile banking, and I think, at this point for mobile banking is where there was a huge shift in customer behavior because the convenience factor of banking transformed entirely with the onset of mobile banking. And to what we have today, which is the social banking side. I mean, you can use your social media platform to actually carry out financial transactions. And customers have dictated this change to us. And so we really need to embrace this and look at all the different ways that customers are interacting with us to provide them with a uniform experience across the channels that they want to interact with us, and then look out for what is the next thing, what are customers looking for, how are they behaving, what are the things and the habits that they have created, and how can we tap into those habits to create the next most convenient way of interacting with customers.
If I put you on a spot and I see that these are the timelines of those channels becoming mainstream channels. But if you look at 2018, or maybe last year, what was the dominant channel for CBA? Was it actually the digital channel, or is it still primarily voice, email, or even chat? How are customers behaving, if you can share?
Yeah, so banking is a little unique in Kenya. We have a mix of customers, and the customer base prefers to interact with us across different channels based on who it is that we're dealing with. Obviously, we have now onboarded a huge customer base through Mshwari, which is our mobile and savings loan product. And we have close to 20 million users that are transacting with us on mobile phone. Through USSD. So luckily for us in Kenya, the mobile phone penetration is pretty high. So that's a key channel that customers will interact with us through. However, on the other side, you have the mainstream bank where you can do a larger array of transactions, and customers that are more sophisticated are still preferring internet banking, and face-to-face is actually also quite prevalent right now. We have a very strong relationship-driven model. And so whilst customers will contact us through the contact center for resolution of most of their issues, there is still a requirement to have that face-to-face channel open in addition to internet and mobile. So what I would say is, it depends on the customer segment that we would be managing, but largely the mobile platform is probably the key channel of choice.
While you show the distribution of channel, and the next slide actually surprised me a lot. There is a trend that I have also observed in markets of Asia and Middle East, which is that from the contact center typically was resolving queries and the transaction used to end there. But a lot of very large organizations in Asia have started taking initiatives of what we call as virtual relationship managers, wherein if you are a customer, and this is not just for VVIP customers, I'm talking about medium-sized, in telco they call it ARPU, or asset under management. In banking, medium-sized customers being served by dedicated virtual relationship managers who are there to resolve inquiries, solve any problems, give any information. And their KPIs are no longer just issue resolution or operational KPIs like average speed of answer. They actually are being judged on how much business came from the set of customers that they manage, which is very, very interesting trend. Have you started observing some of those things at that end also, Seema?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that's what we're preparing for right now. We're actually introducing first-line relationship management within the contact center to be able to have more business-led targets as opposed to just issue resolution. So that transition is already happening, as we speak. In terms of virtual relationship managers, there's a limitation in terms of communication channels. Virtual means you'd like to be able to see their face also as you're interacting with them. So where we have segments that should be able to connect to us to have the full experience, obviously there's some customers that will not. So yes, virtual will exist, probably primarily on phone initially as we get into the video conferencing relationship manager
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. That's a good input. Yeah, go ahead, Seema.
Yeah. So, just another fact for people to know that, in terms of channels and the way that customers are interacting with us, 75% of our consumers use 3 or more channels. And this is not just a Kenyan statistic. This is an Africa statistic and a global statistic. So again, we need to be alive to the fact that as customers are interacting with us through more channels, how do we make that experience seamless? So if I just move to the next, please. All right, so then we can narrow down to CBA. CBA is undergoing a little bit of a transition at the moment in order to provide our customer with the best experience possible. So when you look at what is the problem statement and what are we looking at as CBA, just to highlight, the customer journey all the way from sign up, basic sign up registration, all the way through to support is inconsistent. Sign up and registration is different, as you will see over the next few slides, across basic channels. Transaction processing is different. We offer different services on different platforms in terms of functionality. The in-channel support structure is also different for different product services across what we have at CBA. And then in addition, one of the big challenges that we're having is the new innovation that is basically being plugged into our bank. So obviously we're alive to the fact that we are rolling out, that we're in a competitive environment and we need to roll out new products which the customer has demanded for. And as we roll out new innovations, the challenge that we're having is how do we then integrate that back into what we may call the main bank, or the traditional bank, and how do we then offer uniform experiences, for example, along products like M-Shwari vis-a-vis CBA, or products like a recent product that we launched, which is called Loop, and the mainstream retail bank. So that's another challenge that we're also facing.
We were talking about innovation when we last met, and I asked you that who sort of is driving it? Is it the CIO organization? Is it the customer experience as a department? Is it a cross-departmental accountability? If these changes are to be made, if mobile has to be a channel of choice, who is taking and driving those changes within CBA? And I think audience would appreciate it, because sometimes we just look at each other and say, this is an IT problem or this is not a service problem. How does that work at CBA?
Yeah, so like I mentioned last time, innovation is basically something that's owned by everyone at CBA. Considering the fact that we're in an environment where things are changing, within the next month you have a new innovation already out there. Innovation is something that sits with everybody. However, we have different approaches to innovation. So for example, innovation can be driven by incremental changes, and then you'll have transformational innovation. So we have a team that is dedicated to transformational innovation, where you're setting up entirely new businesses or platforms for customers to experience. But on the other hand, you have day-to-day improvements that can be driven from any team, including my team, with respect to how we can improve the customer experience, and the response is addressed through innovations. So for us, it's across the board. Everyone owns innovation. There is a specialized team that handles transformational innovation, but incremental innovation is handled, by everyone in the organization.
For example, in this case, when your slide shows there are 3 different platforms and the login mechanisms are different, is it something that your department is thinking how to make it more consistent?
Yeah, so if I just walk you through the process, for example, let's go through these slides and I'll tell you how we address it. So, these slides demonstrate the differences that we have within basic mobile banking and internet banking. So this slide shows, login for mobile banking is vastly different to login of internet banking on the right-hand side. Even within mobile banking, we have a mobile banking app, and then we also have a USSD platform. So even login for those two is different, as you can see. If you move to the next slide, you will also see the difference in accessibility. Obviously, the connectivity is different for the different platforms. When you look at even mobile banking or internet banking on your mobile phone, unfortunately, our internet banking is not mobile friendly. And so therefore, you will have a challenge if you try to log in to internet banking using your mobile phone. If you move to the next slide, you'll see how this then spreads through even designs. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you're seeing what our CBA mobile banking looks like. And on the bottom, you're seeing what our internet banking looks like. Even basic things like language. For example, if you were to choose the transact option on CBA mobile, it should equate to the, sorry, if you can move back. The language here, if you look at transact on CBA mobile, it then translates to, let's say, transfer money on the internet mobile banking side. So even the terminology that you use is different, and that makes a big difference to how customers perceive the omni-channel experience. If you then move to the next slide, Ansh, please. You'd look at the functionality offered on the different platforms. At the bottom, you have internet banking, which is able to perform all of these transactions. And at the top, you can see the same transactions are not available on mobile banking. So there's nothing omni-channel about this. It's not a seamless experience. If you then move to the next slide, please. Even from an authentication perspective across channels, it's different. So the reason why I'm talking you through these basic things is just to help understand the challenge that a lot of banks, financial institutions, and so forth will be going through around the channels, and the approach then to fix them is what is the journey that we're on right now. So the question that you'd ask, Sachin, around who does this? For example, all of this has been put together by my team. We have a user experience team that basically talks and walks through the entire experience and the journey from start to finish, and basically looks at how it is that we're going to improve the experience. We sit with business, we agree with the business that this is important, this is not important, and also validate the same against customer feedback that we maintain, that we receive consistently. And based on that, put together a plan around how it is that we're going to address, the various inconsistencies across, and put together a whole project, which now is the Omnichannel project at CBA.
Sure.
So if I just go back onto the previous slide, the processes that we're looking at putting on, that we're looking at addressing through our Omnichannel project start all the way from onboarding through to customer engagement. Things like our service support framework, we will also be addressing that, because like Pauline said, at the moment, the offering is entirely fragmented, where sign up for a product has to be done at the branch, whereas servicing is done through, let's say, the contact center, transaction is done through internet. It's a completely fragmented approach that we're now going to review so that you're able to perform everything in one channel.
Sure.
If you move to the next slide. So what does CBA expect to get from this omni-channel shift? The first thing is customer centricity. Through driving an omni-channel experience, you have the benefit of collecting a lot of data and understanding what your customers want. I mean, customers at this point in time want you to know them. They want you to show them that you know them. They want you to enable them. They want you to value them. And this can only be done through getting so personalized, getting information about our customers, and now being predictive in how we engage with them. We're also looking at maintaining consistency across the channels, as I've just spoken about. The next thing that we want to be able to do is offer seamless switching. I want our customers to be able to come in and start something in mobile banking and finish it in internet banking without any hassle. And the last thing, like I just alluded to before, is having the full life cycle managed in one channel. So you're able to start your whole relationship with CBA in one channel and finish it in one channel. So those are largely the main goals that we're looking at CBA.
Excellent, Seema. It's always a pleasure to hear from someone who has actually done it. We guys do it for others, but you've done it for an organization. Congratulations. CBA is a very, very progressive organization there. I've seen examples of Loop, and that's fantastic cutting edge experience that you guys are providing that we all can be proud of. Okay, so thank you. And moving to the last part, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of mirror's job here. We all talk about modernization, adding channels. I'm going to show you how legacy looks like, and it is for all of us to reflect whether we have that around us, right? Sometimes we start in our initiatives, we start believing that we're doing a lot. I just want to show you what legacy looks like, and these are all examples from real life, either my customer experiences, recent ones, or I actually went onto a few channels and just started experiencing those channels and seeing how people have implemented it. So first one is actually my favorite for the last 10 years. And this is when you call into organization, and I've written bank, but I'm not biased against it. And you reach to an agent in a very bright, smiling voice, addresses, "Welcome to the XYZ company. How can I help you?" Right? So, you know, this used to work for a while, but our technology today is simple enough for us to know who's calling in. In 85–90% of the cases, you should know who is calling in. In 30–40% cases, you can even know why they are calling in, right? They would have a case or a transaction or a delivery which is pending, and it's not rocket science. But what Seema mentioned as personalized, it starts by saying, "I know you." Literally saying, "I know you." You should address, if Seema or Pauline are calling in, I should say, "Hey, morning, Pauline. I see that you have, a delivery pending." Or, hey, Pauline, I see you have requested for a credit card, or you have requested for a checkbook." That will tell the customer that this organization knows me, cares about me, not a bright smile without knowledge of who the customer is. I know a lot of us are still struggling with it. It's a simple enough thing to do. Now let's look at some of the modern channels. On the left, this is my mobile app for a ticket booking application, a market leader who implemented the in-app chat. So from the mobile app, you could initiate a chat. And mind you that I'm logged into the app, which means the app knows my preferences, app knows who I am. And I start the chat, and this is what I see, what you see on the left-hand side. It asks me my name, phone, and email address. Mind you guys, our generation might not see a lot in it, but the next generation would just find it silly if we ask them from within the app. The app already knows who you are. The second one, and this is a little funny, millions of dollars would have been spent on promoting this chatbot from Africa, wherein I went onto Facebook, started talking to the chatbot. Within the first interaction, the chatbot could not understand what I am saying. It tried handing me over to an agent, and there was no agent for the next 15 minutes, right? Now, I know that all of us believe that chatbots are the future. You don't want to be experimenting with your customers. They are not guinea pigs, right? So the key here is, if you're implementing a channel, make sure that you are able to visualize the customer's journey very, very clearly. The customer is not going to appreciate that you have implemented a chatbot. That's none of his concern. You're implementing a chatbot because you believe that it will make it more efficient and fast. Make sure that it does that, and it's not just an experiment that somebody wants to do, and some customers are going to be really pissed about it. The last one is actually a Twitter chat between a customer and an organization. This is a very large organization, and the situation here is that the customer had actually sent an email prior to this conversation. 2 days, no response on the email. He comes onto Twitter, blasts the company that 2 days, no response. And the final response from the social media team is, "We have taken the note, passed it to the relevant team, and you would get a response in 3 working days." Criminal, right? Because my guess is they have a different team handling social media, whose job is to respond fast, and the actual team which is resolving those issues, handling emails, is different. So just implementing channels doesn't create omni-channel experience. Having a consistent view of the channels, and enabling and empowering your agents to be doing that is omnichannel. So let's look at what is integrated. In my opinion, it's three very simple statements. Your customer can arrive from any channel. Of course, the channel that you provide, right? This could be from the website, web chat, mobile in-app chat, Facebook Messenger, even a transaction, voice, all those channels are your channels. But you, as a company, should see this customer as one customer, right? So here is an example view of Jacqueline, whose last interaction was a chat, and she has had a Twitter, phone call, email, Facebook, SMS interaction with us. And if I am handling that, I would already know when did she last talk to us, what was it about. I can now actually address her queries much better and give her comfort that I understand what she is saying, and I understand that she's pissed because she has had to talk to us for quite some time. Once you get the basic knowledge of the customer right, you can actually go one notch higher, which is shown on the next slide. So if you have had past interactions with the customer, if the customer has given you feedback, your agents are very smart if you give them cues. So for example, you can color code how was the last interaction with Jacqueline, what was the feedback that she gave us. If she was pissed, we can actually initiate a discussion about that while we are resolving an issue. If she is what I call as a social butterfly, which means if she likes to write a lot on Twitter, we have just resolved her query, she can actually give you accolades, we can ask for it, but you don't want to be doing that to somebody who is not active on social media, right? So intelligence, first knowledge, basic knowledge of the customer across channel, and then intelligence, but first the knowledge. Knowledge is more important. There's the second point that I wanted to cover, which I think is the most ignored point in the customer service arena, which is agent experience is equal to customer experience. These are the folks. Once an interaction starts, an engagement starts human to human, the responsibility of the experience is entirely with the agent, right? Self-service, other channel consistency, Seema has talked about, but there would still be a situation when an engagement would be required, a human-to-human engagement would be required. And I mentioned that it's going to be increasing in its value over time because people are going to be calling or chatting less, but when they do, that's your moment of truth to actually win over the customer. Now, this is a cartoon that I just found. Try going, and I'm sure all of us have been there, but try going to an agent's desk and look for some information that customer asks for, right? You're talking to the customer and you're looking for the account balance, when would the checkbook be delivered, when would a delivery be made, when will the bill plan be changed. Those are things that agent needs answers to. And there's actually a research that shows that because of the alt tab and multiple screens, 26% of the agent's time during interaction is spent on finding information. Can you read that now? Imagine a pissed customer, an irate customer talking to me as an agent, and I'm scouting for information. Can't it just be integrated and shown beautifully to him? Can't the agent interact? If Seema sent me an email, can't I just decide that I think this deserves a call and I can call that individual customer with all the knowledge that I had, with all the information that I need to answer, right? These are simple steps which are ignored in my opinion, and all these cause silos both in the channel experience as well as the broken customer experience, right? These are very, very critical points and very easy points to solve, very low-hanging fruits for you to solve. Go ahead to the next slide. Right, so I wanted to share a couple of takeaways from what we just talked about here. Just go to the next slide. My first takeaway, and this is actually counterintuitive, not having a particular channel is better than a broken channel. Don't implement a channel till you are absolutely sure how it's going to play out in front of your customer. You might want to start small, solve a few use cases, but that channel should solve those use cases really well, and immediately hand over to another channel, make a call, respond on an email if that channel doesn't work out beyond that use case. The second is, even before you add any channel, single view of the customer, or what Seema likes to call customer 360, is a must-have. Don't start adding channels before you have a single view of the customer where you can get basic demographic, transactional information, case information, open tickets information in one single view. Don't start adding channels before that. Third, for your agents, make it extremely easy, empower them with information. They might not be able to take actions because that might require approvals, but at least information should be available for all agents when they want it. And last, have your agents enabled and empowered to respond on any channel. A Twitter channel can end in a call. That will lead to a much better experience. A call later on would be responded by an email. Make sure all channels of communication to the customer are available with the agent. You might want to monitor some of the public mediums, and that's understandable. If I am an agent, I respond to something on Facebook or Twitter, public media, you might have an approval that you can put in the middle, but don't disallow them from responding on channels. Don't make channel silos at the agent side if you're implementing an omni-channel experience. So these are the stuff that we wanted to cover. How are we on time, Ansh? In case there are questions, we can take them now.
Yes, we have a couple of minutes and we'll take questions. So Sachin, there is a question for you. So majority of the service interactions that are actually happens on calls and emails, which becomes slightly inconvenient for the millennials of today, who are more social media and chat savvy. So what should be the first action point for businesses here?
Great question, Ansh. It's actually not about millennials and old people like me. The emergence of channels that you see, actually there are two kinds of channels. There are real-time channels and there are passive channels. And then there's another dimension of public channels and private channels. But let's talk about the nature of the channel itself. Chat, voice are real-time channels. When the customer requires immediate help and it requires an immediate interaction, invariably the discussion is going to move to chat or voice. Now, the preference of chat or voice would be dependent on the scenario in which the customer is in right now. If I am driving, I'm on hands-free, I would want to talk. But if I am in this webinar, listening to it and talk, and I want to still chat with Amazon's customer care, I would be doing a chat. Millennials prefer to chat just because smartphone adoption and messaging is something that they are very, very comfortable with. The passive mediums like email are more transactional when you have a lot of information to share. So for example, if I have a bunch of documents that I have to share, referring to which you would need to respond to my query, it would invariably happen on an email. Social media is a channel when everything else doesn't work. Now you could turn it into a passive. Now people have started responding immediately on Twitter to customer service queries also. And there's one company that I know of which does it really well, apart from CBA of course, is Urban Clap. You should go to Urban Clap Assist and see that they do direct responses of customer service inquiries on Twitter and on Facebook. But my guess is those are still second choices to an in-app chat or an in-app support, right? So my advice would be at least have one real-time channel and one passive channel. So email, voice, and chat are the first three preferences. Social, do it very, very carefully. If you're saying that you serve on social, then you better have your agents who are responding to actual inquiries, handling social media, and not the marketing team.
We are really tight on time. Just one last question for Seema. So we were going through a report on KPMG where we saw that 2/3 of the majority of the customers in Africa do their transactions still through physically visiting the branches. So how do you plan to educate your customers about the new channels or new interactions that you have developed in CBA?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think, in response to that survey that was released, it probably doesn't incorporate the large uptake of specific mobile and savings on mobile savings and loans. That market is very large, and so when it comes to banking and financial inclusion, from a financial inclusion perspective, that specific channel is quite large on a mobile banking perspective. And by mobile banking, I mean specifically a USSD option, a basic savings account, and micro lending available on the phone. But when it comes to traditional banking, yes, that report is right, and that probably about 60% of our customers prefer to walk in. There's a huge shift that we need to take our customers through from an education perspective about what the new channels offer, and also get them over what in Africa we face is that there's a fear to transact online because of the fear of fraud or the fear of the unknown. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen around that space to migrate customers to the digital platforms. In addition, it's also looking at how customers are behaving and picking up on those habits to actually get them used to transacting online, the same way that we got customers to transact using the mobile phone just for quick mobile loan applications. So there is a lot of work to be done, from that perspective, and shifting customers from the branches to digital channels. But I believe that, as a continent, we're making the right steps to go that direction.
I think there's another question to you from George, and he says, how is CBA leveraging or planning to leverage data coming from channels to do product brand development? How do you decide what channel is most optimal? Pretty deep question, but if you can try and answer it quickly.
Okay. All right. So the question, as I understood it, was how do you pick the data that's coming through all of our interactions to feed back into product development? And,
yes.
Yeah. And that's a great question, because that's actually one of the things that we actively do. We get a lot of feedback from our channels because, obviously, as we engage with customers, we capture all of our feedback through an integrated CRM platform that has product recommendations that are built into it to recommend the right solution for the customer based on what it is that they're transacting with at that particular point in time. And not only for that, but also to feed back into the product development house to start now responding to some of the wants that customers are presenting through the way that they're behaving. So that's something that can be easily done if you have a very integrated customer feedback management system and an internal mechanism to now feed that root cause, analyze it, and feed improvements back into the customer space. So it's something that can be achieved very, very quickly.
So, in my experience, collecting data and putting it in feedback is simple, but definitely not easy, which means it's very simple to understand what needs to be done, but it takes a lot of discipline for one to be doing that in product development, and great to hear that CBA is doing it. A lot of people are asking whether they will get these slides. You will get the recording and these slides immediately after the webinar. Vikram has thanked us. There's one more question. I think we have time, so I'll take that. How does Omnichannel works for car rental services? There is actually an example of Zoom Car, who's a customer who has been able to automate both the digital sales side. So people are putting inquiries on the website, which is the digital channel, and immediately a response is provided on phone as well as email, and then engagement happens on all three mediums with Zoom Car. So that's one example. I know the use case there is both digital sales, inquiry handling, as well as customer service. Get in touch with Ansh if you want to know more about what we do for Zoom Car. And ladies and gentlemen, we're also visiting Kigali, Rwanda for a conference on 21st and 22nd. So join us for chatting about customer service or just having a drink, and chatting about nothing else in life. But let me just take this opportunity to thank my team, Ansh, Juveria, Rahul. You guys have done a good job of getting everybody in. Special thanks to Pauline and Seema. And thank you everybody who joined in. Ansh, is there anything else that we need to do, or can we just wind up? I think we are well in time today.
Yes, we can wind up. Thank you, Seema. Thank you, Pauline, for making this webinar a success. We will be at the DOT Finance Summit, Kigali, Rwanda on 21 and 22nd February. So probably you can join us there. One more thing, after the post this webinar, I will be sharing the recording of this webinar to the attendees as well as to the registrations. And plus, I will be sharing an ultimate guide to revolutionize customer experience in banking sector, an ebook that we prepared. Thank you. Thank you so much for attendees, and thank you to the presentees for joining in. Thank you so much.
Cool. And Satya, I'll get in touch with you. I know you have more questions. You're typing questions. I'll ask Ansh to get in touch with you on this. Thank you so much, buddy. See ya.
Thank you.